Hey y'all, my name is Gregory Agid, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about practicing, why I love practicing, why you should love practicing, and give you some tips on what you should be practicing. One of the most frequent questions I get asked is, how much should I be practicing? And the easiest way for me to answer that question is by asking a question. And the question that I always ask is, how good do you want to be? I think it's really important for everyone to have the realization and acknowledge that greatness and practicing go hand in hand. The greatest professionals, the greatest athletes in the world, the greatest musicians in the world, they all practice. If you want to be really good at anything in life, it's so important to acknowledge that practice is part of that process. I just have to say that I absolutely love practicing more than anything in the world. Practicing is my peace, it's my meditation, it's my salvation, and I truly treasure every moment that I have with my instrument, developing my musicianship, and ultimately developing myself. I absolutely love it. I didn't always love practicing. When I was in seventh, eighth, and ninth grade, I hated it. And I remember forging little practice logs from my band director when I was that age, because there was nothing you could do to get me to practice. And that all changed for me when I started attending the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts. And so when I started attending NOCA, I was very lucky to be surrounded by some of the most talented young people in the world, cats like John Baptiste, Trombone Shorty, Sullivan Fortner, Christian Scott, Courtney Bryant. And all of these cats were so incredibly talented, and they were playing at a very high level at a very young age. And when I was at school, I was able to see that not only were they very talented, but they were also practicing all the time. And so I had this epiphany. I was like, holy shit, if John is practicing all the time, maybe I should be practicing all the time. So in 10th grade, I was taking clarinet lessons, and I showed up for my first 3 lessons, and every lesson my teacher would ask me okay, let's play all 12 of your major scales. And I couldn't do it. And so finally on the 3rd lesson, he was like, look, if you don't show up again knowing your major scales, lessons are over. And unfortunately, I didn't take him seriously. And I showed up to my next lesson, could not play my major scales. And that was our last lesson. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't play my major scales that I went to the back practice room all the way at the end of the hall. And I remember praying that no one would walk by as I was working out my major scales. That was such an important moment in my life, because I remember sitting in that room and I said to myself, no matter what happens, today I'm going to learn these scales. I'm going to do everything that I can to learn these scales. And it ultimately took 2 or 3 days, but I remember walking out of there going holy shit, I can play my major scales. And that's when I had this major breakthrough in my life. And I realized that if I practiced, I would learn new things and I would get better. I made that direct connection in my head between practice and getting better. I got so excited about the idea of hey, if I practice, I'm going to get better. And I got really excited and addicted to that idea of self-improvement. The idea of if I practice, I'm going to be a better musician. To be perfectly honest, I love the process of practicing. And I think that's what makes this so sustainable for me, is that I appreciate the process. And I think it's really important for all musicians to be process-driven as opposed to goal-driven. And so when we're process-driven, we love how we spend our time, right? I love practicing not because it feels like a burden or because I'm trying to achieve something, but I love practicing because I just love practicing. So it doesn't take a lot of effort or energy to convince me to go practice. If I have to learn a new piece of music or if I have to learn a new scale or whatever, I enjoy that time where I get to discover new things, become a better musician, and ultimately become a better person. So what should you be practicing? So ultimately, I think that practice is about a couple things. First off, we are learning how to play our instruments. We are learning the technical side of playing a clarinet or playing a saxophone or playing whatever instrument that we're playing. And then on the other side, we're learning about music. We're learning about the theory, chords, harmony, the history. and also discovering our own creativity within the music. So it's so important to develop your technique on the instrument and your musicianship, because you want to develop your musicianship so you know what to play, and then you're developing your technique so you know how to play it. And you don't ultimately have to spend a lot of time working out little things. Practicing slow is the most important thing that you can do. So many people are always obsessed with like practicing fast. How fast can I play this? How fast can you play this? Can I play faster than you? And to me, it's not really about that. To me, the real question is, how slow can you play? And if you can play something at 50 BPM, and then you can play it at 52, and then 54, 56, 58, so on until you hit, 300 beats per minute. That process is how you ultimately play something with fluidity and ease at a very high tempo. So I think it's really important to learn how to practice slow. Spend time on your fundamentals. Everything that you should be doing should be developing and maintaining your fundamental technique on your instrument and as a musician, always revisiting the fundamentals. And I feel like having a strong base in the fundamentals will allow you to excel in anything in life. I think of those fundamentals as like the base of a house. If you don't have a strong foundation in your house, how are you going to build everything above it? Those are some of my thoughts on practicing. I highly encourage all of you all to develop a love for process, develop a love for practice, and remember that the more you practice and the more efficiently you practice, the better you're going to become and the quicker you are going to become better. Practice your fundamentals, practice slow, develop your musicianship, and develop your technique on your instrument. Those are some of my thoughts on practicing. If you all have any comments, please feel free to leave them below, and I will do my best to respond. Anyways, I hope this video helps, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.